Did you know the English word gauze actually comes from the Palestinian city of Gaza? I learned this a couple of years ago while studying traditional Palestinian textiles. This material used in the medical field all over the world. You find it in every hospital, every doctor's office. Ironically, comes from the region where a genocide is currently going on. Now, the material wasn't actually originally created for medical use. Material actually plays a really big role in day-to-day Palestinian life and Palestinian culture. We don't call it gauze. The Europeans just decided to name the fabric after the region it came from. In standard Arabic, it's called shash, but in certain Palestinian dialects like mine, we call it shasha. Depending on its use, it was either made with silk or cotton. Us Palestinians have been using it and still use it till this day as clothing. We use it around the house, we use it in the kitchen. For clothing, it's heavily used as a headdress, both for men and women. We're all very familiar with the kufiyya. Actually, let me grab it and show you. If you look at a kufiyya, one that is traditionally made in Palestine, not a cheap fast fashion knockoff from China. If you look closely, it looks like gauze. This, the white part, that is shasha. What makes it shasha, or quote-unquote gauze, is how loosely woven the threads are. For those of y'all who don't know, the kufiyya is actually a men's headpiece, a type of hatta, which is a square piece of fabric folded diagonally, placed on top of the head, and then held in place with a akal put on top, secures it. The garment as a men's headpiece is called hatta. The kufiyya is actually just the pattern, the black and white pattern. The garment itself is a hatta. Traditionally, it was actually just a plain white shasha material. There was no pattern on it. It's also the same material for Palestinian women's headwear. Men's is a square cutout, whereas the women's is a more long rectangular shape. It would be laid in the center of the long side and then just drape in the back or be wrapped around. It has a bunch of different names depending on the region. Some call it shasha, some call it mendil, which just means scarf. Some call it khirka, which just means like a piece of fabric. It's not as popular nowadays, but the older generation of Palestinian women definitely still wear shasha material for their headscarf. Shasha is especially preferred during the warmer months because it's breathable, but it still does the job of covering, although it's still used in both cold and warm seasons. Shasha is also very commonly used in the kitchen to filter things. Use it to make things like lebne, which is like a really thick yogurt. Put regular yogurt in the shasha, tie it up and hang it and let the water drip out, and eventually you get lebne. We use it to make olive oil when we do like hand-pressed olive oil. After you crush the olives, traditionally with a really big stone that you roll back and forth, you place the crushed olives in the shasha, you twist it and then place it under the boulder, and slowly the olive oil will ooze out. It's also used as like table covers, curtains. Also obviously used in the medical field. It's just called shash tibbi, just means medical shasha. But the whole point of this video is the fact that this crucial material to Palestinian identity comes from Gaza. Beyond just shasha or gauze, Gaza was actually known as a textile hub before 1948. Before the settler colony of Israel was born and before they destroyed the majority of the textile industry there, Gaza was exporting beautiful fabrics to all parts of the Middle East. A lot of the traditional women's dresses throughout Palestine were made from fabrics that came from Gaza, especially the town of Majdal, which was in the district of Gaza. That was famous all throughout Palestine for the Majdalawi fabric. Distinguishing feature is really thick, chunky stripes. These modern versions of the fabric aren't from Gaza, but it's known that this style originates from Gaza. Back in the day, before the occupation, any type of fabric you needed, you could probably find it in Gaza. There's one thing for you to know about Gaza's role in Palestinian culture and Palestinian identity is Gaza's significant role in the Palestinian textile industry. Their expertise in textiles was so pivotal that even outsiders were taking their fabrics. Even the Europeans, the colonizers, were like, dang, we need this. Fast forward to 2023, every hospital in the world uses a material named after Gaza.